All right, hey guys, Josiah here with EasyCaters.com, and today I'm going to do a quick review of weekly signals that we have on the charts right now. And so I've done these for, quarterly charts, and I'm going to do some for monthly and so forth to give some longer-term traders some perspective from the relative volume side of things. Maybe you're contemplating a trade based on a signal that you have that you watch for, and you want to see if volume is supporting that theory or that thesis. And so I'm going to go through some signals here on the weekly and look at what we have going on from the prior week. So today is Saturday, day before Easter, and so it's a good day to review the prior week and see what we've got. So first up is Celgene, and we've got an uptrend. We've done a deep pullback here on the quarterly and monthly. And then the monthly chart, we had this 1, 2, 3 kind of setup that triggered. Strong bullish candle that closed at the high. Inside candle that closed with a lot of volume churn happening, basically meaning that somebody's buying that sell-off. And then we triggered above that. And so this I would expect to continue at least up to here, up into this range here. And if we can break through that, then we've got clear skies, it looks like. On the weekly range, weekly time frame here, we had some churn that came up here at the top of this pivot, and that would be expected. And probably what is going on there is a couple of different things. People that took a 2R trade from this prior volume signal on the weekly chart down here are exiting their positions at 2Rs or adjusting their positions, maybe taking off half of the position there and looking for a potential bigger move after a pullback, but they're wanting to unload a little bit for now and wait and see what happens next. And so what I would look for is maybe 2 more weeks worth of trading here to pull back down into this breakout area and put in another churn bar that's off the highs here, and that would be a good weekly signal to go back long. So this is potentially good. We've triggered this red candle in the previous 2 quarters ago by last quarter's candle. And if we come back down a little bit and retest that breakout area, I think this would be a really good potential trade on Celgene, at least from a relative volume perspective. So that's one trade to keep an eye on, Celgene. We got PSTG. I'm not sure if I'm seeing anything particularly good here. On the volume side of things, we had a deep sell-off, a deep pullback, came back down and tested this breakout area down here where we started this uptrend and got some absorption. And you can see we had this kind of 1, 2, 3 with an inside churn bar there. I like those types of signals. And so that one started this new uptrend. But what I would look for here at this point would be a deeper pullback. And maybe we can come back down and retest the highs of this breakout area down in here in the 21, 22 area. And if we can put in some good churn down there, maybe in the next 2 weeks, like in the prior example, that might start looking a little bit more like a bullish continuation kind of trade. We do have here all this green on the monthly. This is saying there's a lot of volume coming in, and that can be good or bad. In this case, I think it's probably a good thing. It's saying that there is some people chasing the trade is what I would interpret that as. If this was a shallower type of run up, maybe up into the 20 level, and some smaller candles here, I would probably look at that as more of a bearish continuation. But it's a little bit hard to interpret that, but I think this is probably good if we can get a little bit of a pullback with some churn volume in the next couple of weeks here. AMD, let's see here. We've got a 1, 2, 3 on the monthly that triggered. Looks like that one worked really well. We had a 1, 2, 3 on the weekly that triggered and worked really well. And right now we're pulling back off that high. If we can get maybe this coming week another churn bar I actually think this is probably good in either case. You can probably buy it on a break over this high. But if we get another churn bar down here on this weekly chart, then that will probably be good. So that's AMD. Look for perhaps another inside candle churn bar on the next week, and that might be a good signal to take. But even if it does, so on the daily chart on Thursday, we had a good, decent signal anyway on the daily. So it's saying there's somebody coming in here and absorbing the movement. And so a break above there would probably be good in this overall context here. BHGE, let's see. This is not really a good context for a trend type of trade. For you range traders or long-term buy and hold types, yeah, I don't know that I'm really seeing much of anything here that, I mean, we're at the low of this range. That's saying that, we've got some, the historical prices on our side. But other than that, I'm not really seeing much of anything. So I would just wait on that one. Twitter, we've got a churn bar that put in last week. This week was a small inside candle. And the location here is looking like it's probably going to sell back off. This may be the high of the range, and it's pivoting at the high of the range here. So I don't think that's necessarily bullish. If we do break above this candle, that could be a bullish signal because it's saying there's some strength here. We're at the top of the range, and if we break and close above that, that can be a good signal. So I don't really see a trade that I would take yet here. I would probably want to wait for another candle to form, but this could be a 1, 2, 3 on the weekly if you are really interested in Twitter. I would probably wait personally. We do have one good thing going for it is this pullback here, which put churn in on the daily chart on Thursday at, and it's off the highs down here at the low area, low range of this trend, or excuse me, this pullback. So I do like the look of that. So a buy over a break of that could be a good thing up to the 36 area. So that's one thing that's going forward. At least it's a little unclear other than that. WBA, Walgreens, I'm not really seeing, there was a churn bar that was put in last week, but, and so that was at this quarterly level here where we had some churn previously. Some buyers stepped up there. So this could be a level that people start stepping back up again, but it needs more time to heal, I think. So I think anything that I would do here would just be a short-term buy. Look for, one time, like a small target back up into here, and then wait and see what happens from there. BMY, I looked at this on the quarterly. We had a nice churn last quarter, but it was a really kind of a wider range candle, so not a lot of really strong context to go on there. Retesting this low, we put in churn. So if you are interested in owning BNY, longer term, this could be a good location to acquire some more shares. Could be good to sell a credit spread below this low here and expect it to bounce back up to the high of the range. But other than that, I'm not really seeing a good setup there on the weekly. Let's see, EQT. We are down in the low of these pivots here. And we had some churn come in on the monthly. We're kind of just working through that same range. Looks like we had a little bit of directional context come in here on the monthly, and we're pulling back now. So what I would kind of look for here is we want to put in a small range weekly candle, maybe next week. If we can do that, that could indicate some strength coming in here, testing the high of this, the middle of this range here. If we can put in a churn candle there, that can indicate that some buyers have stepped up the bid. MPC. To me, this is looking more like a bearish 1, 2, 3, but and that's on the quarterly scale. But if we zoom down here, we've got context of an overall trend, uptrend. We've got a pullback off these highs, and we're putting in churn at the low area of this this pullback. So this is one of those that can resolve in either direction. Trying to see what the overall context is. We're testing this pivot high here and this here. So this is decent as long as the market holds pretty strong here. We got some churn there. Looks like people are absorbing it down here at the low area of this range. You can see on the daily a little bit better here. So if you want to acquire some shares there, longer term, that looks good. It looks like this monthly chart triggered already this month in April. Triggered the prior month, and so this one we have yet to see if it's going to work or not. It may, by the end of the month, it may turn strong looking here and work its way back up to the high. So that one's a decent long trade. It's not incredibly clear either way, but that could be a long potential there. CNC. We had a little bit of churn in the past couple of weeks here. Down in this area of prior churn here. And it looks like we're not able to hold that. So we had a little bit of churn on the daily yesterday, or excuse me, Thursday, the last trading day of the week. And yeah, it may start slowing down here and holding, but nothing to do on that one right now as far as I can tell, unless you're just wanting to average in a position. And that looks like all we've got on the red candle side. Looks like here on Linar, we've got a 1, 2, 3 going on that had a little bit of churn on the inside bar there, and so that can be good. So that one already triggered, and it looks like it's working its way up to the first target. One more Verizon. So we've got a breakout over these levels here in the past quarter. Monthly's putting in a churn pullback bar. And the weekly, we've got a break to a high, pulling back off that high. And when we put in some churn there, I like the look of that a little bit. But we've come back below it, so we need to see some more churn down here at this low level here, this down in this kind of pocket area, as it tests these prior highs here. So it's not ready to go yet as far as I can tell. It looks like it needs to have maybe one more candle inside, puts in some churn, shows you that the volume stepped in, and then that one would look really pretty for another long. You can see there was a nice 1, 2, 3 inside setup there with some churn that showed up that worked for this high. So you can probably look for that on a longer term chart, maybe a monthly or a 2-week, as this puts in this churn volume here. If it holds that and then breaks above, that could be good. So that's the red weekly signal. Let me see what we have on the side of green. We have a strong move inside a little churn bar here that was really narrow. I really like those, but we've already gone too far for that one. See, last week was a nice churn bar here. Now, this one, it was coming up into the lows of this. low here, hitting some resistance. And so we're basically looking to see if this is going to result in a deep pullback, or if it hangs out here, then this could be good on a break above here, or especially if we put in another churn bar. So that one, wait on, but that one could potentially go either way. It could turn into a range, or it could turn into a trend continuation on a break upward. Delta Airlines, kind of having a 1, 2, 3 setup here. So this is not exactly what I look for. I would prefer it to be a red and prefer it to be inside, but if we can break above this range here, then that could be a good setup, especially if the daily chart shows up any kind of additional churn here. You got a little bit of a candle on Thursday that was showing some churn, so that could be good, and that can be giving us an early indication that this is going to continue. So keep an eye on that. Delta Airlines looks pretty good if it can get a break above that. SLB. Yeah, we broke above that candle at the high of this range. Let me delete some of these levels here. So this is the kind of setup I really like to take, where we have a bullish move, pull back, off the highs, we put in some churn and then break above it. So that's the kind of setup that I really like to trade. This one is saying there was some churn up here at the top, and we did break above it, so it may continue, but we might be hitting too much resistance up here at this 50 and this churn area here, so I don't know. But probably look on the daily chart as we test this breakout level, and if we can get some churn here at this breakout level, then that can speak to the strength there, so that could be good. MDLZ, lots of nice little signals here on the weekly. It has thrust upward, churn on the inside candle here, break above it, pull back, churn, break above that. We got churn here up at the top, and so and then another churn bar inside that. That was decent. It's not exactly what I would like to see there, especially after we've come this far, but this could work. What I would prefer to see is a pullback down a little bit, retest maybe this high here, just with a brush, just barely touch it with a tail of a candle, put in some churn, get it absorbed, and go from there, but we'll see. PayPal. Yeah, we had some resistance on the breakout last week. The week prior, you can see we had a churn bar that was a decent trade. Yeah, I don't really see anything to do with that one right now. I think it's gone too far for now for us to consider an entry, and we need to wait for a rest on that one. PG, kind of a similar situation there, actually. You see the quarterly had a nice little bottoming tail churn bar there that led to the current run, but this run has been going so long that we really need to wait for another pullback to contemplate any kind of entry here, something more like this. This is again, the type of setup I really like to trade is something like this, where you have a bullish move, pullback off the highs, churn at the low area of that pullback, break to new highs there. So SCHW, Schwab. This one is good to go on a break above this monthly level, but between now and then, like we had this churn up at the top here where this range started to develop, churn down at the bottom as we tested this breakout level again, and so we're basically just kind of waiting to see which side of this range is going to be the side that we resolve in. And so I would look for, if we can hold up here near the highs and put in a churn pullback, then that might be good for long, but it may just want to come back down here and retest here. I guess we'll have to see. Nothing to do this week. Apple broke above a churn bar last week. On the monthly chart, you can see we had some resistance here. Support came in here. And we're kind of just continuing up here. So nothing much to do here unless you want to chase a trade over this high of this churn bar candle here. Viab, we're putting a churn bar here up at the top of a range, and risk to reward is not really good right now for a long, and so it's looking better as a short right now. So I would want to wait and see a shallow pullback before I would consider a long on this one. Baba, yeah, it broke out in the last two weeks here, and we're just kind of hanging out here waiting to see if it's going to hold. I would like to see maybe next week a churn bar that's put in here. We've got a little bit of churn this week. If we can put in another brighter churn bar here at the top of this range, that would be good to go. This is looking like a 1, 2, 3 type of setup if we can trigger above the highs. It's not exactly my ideal setup, but that could work on the long. Yeah, it looks like it could at least get up to this pivot here, perhaps. But it could be putting in the high of this range here, and it might need to retest the lows. And that would probably be more ideal anyway if we can get a pullback and a churn bar at the low for a better risk to reward setup. Nothing there. So that's looking like most of what I'm seeing here. We had a churn bar last week on Square that led to this sell-off. Get these levels off of here. So that one was a nice little trigger bearish. It's probably not something I would have been looking for. I don't really trade much on the bearish side, but if you were watching for a bearish trade, that would have been a good signal. AXP, we had a little range inside that we had a pullback with some churn at the low of the range. Off the highs, continue breaking above, so that looks good. If we can get this move to continue in the next few days, that should reach target. We've reached 1R right now, 1 times your risk. So next week we may be able to reach that first target of 2 times your risk. I'm not seeing much to do here on Texas Instruments. We've got a churn bar up near a high of a range. It did close strongly, and then we had an inside red last week, and this one could be good. It has a little bit of churn on this bar, not super clear, but if this breaks above, then that can indicate some strength because of that churn. AMAT, Applied Materials, we had this strong breakout here, churn bar inside, breaking out again. Daily is meeting some resistance here. If we can get one more candle on the daily, perhaps, a small inside doji-ish looking candle with churn, then a break above that bar would look good to me. It might go ahead and break on the next bar bullishly as well, but I like to see those little 3-bar pullbacks off the high on churn, saying, we're trying lower, but it's not working, and then it breaks above. I really like to see those kind of setups. And I think that's all we've got right now. Nothing else is really highlighted really great on the weekly. So hopefully that's useful to you. Here's another example of those pullbacks that I like to see with churn at the low of the pullback. So we had a couple of those in the past few weeks on Facebook. Had a nice little bullish move, pullback, churn at the low, that broke up, pullback, churn at the low, broke up, and so we'll see if that continues on. So that's what I've got this week. We will check back again next week, and until then, talk to you later. Have a good day.